Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Meeting Development Committee of the 14th of, where are we? December.
That's a good start.
So this is emergency evacuation announcement. There are no planned fire drills, are there not? No, right. So if the alarm goes off, please leave the building in an orderly fashion through the nearest fire exits, which is those doors there, and I think that one there you can get out of. The fire assembly point is in the island in front of the main entrance to the building. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. Please note that the meeting will be audio recorded. Please switch off mobile phones or turn them onto silent. Please note that toilets and hand washing facilities are in the foyer area. Great. Members, there is a need to use microphones during the meeting. When I invite you to speak, please wait until there is a microphone in front of you before speaking, as microphones are needed for the hearing loop and for the audio recording. These are all switched on and ready for you to speak, so you don't need to adjust them. Members, voting will be done on a show of hands. In line with the Constitution, I will ask for a show of hands for and then against recommendations, and we'll also ask for a show of hands for those wishing to abstain from voting. That's it. We've got 1 minute. Just keep an eye on for people with their hands up. Okay. Just write an order they put them up and I'll ask them. Okay. That's basically it. Yeah. And if you want to speak on anything, just give me a bash. And... Right then. The time is 7:30. So, right then. Agenda items 1 and 2. Apologies for absentees. Have we got apologies for absence? Councillor Butcher, Councillor Shaw, Councillor Foster and Councillor Milne. Councillor Hoy will be substituting for Councillor Tracy Knight, and Councillor Eileen Gadsden will be substituting for Councillor Shaw. Non-attending member, Councillor Stanley.
Was Jack Lawman supposed to be here or not?
Last night he didn't make the committee, so I don't know if he was standing in for someone, which he can't.
I think you'll find that his name is on the committee,
development committee. Send out
from the.
Well, he's not here, so unless the door's opening, is he coming in now? That's Adrian. No, so he's not here, so he's not here. He's not here.
Put him down as missing then.
Put him down as missing.
Thank you. Okay,
that's fine. Non-members attending, we have none. Agenda on item 4, minutes of the meeting held on 22nd of November. Are the minutes agreed, members? Agreed? Cool. I'll sign those. A bit later. Right. Are there any declarations of interest, members? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Matter of interest on items 6 and 7. Non-pecuniary interest as my grandson works for IPECO.
Okay, agenda item 6, Airport Business Park, Southend Cherry Orchard Way, Rochford. Please note that this application has been withdrawn by the applicant and will therefore not be considered at this meeting for the Development Committee. So let's move on to agenda item 7, which is the Airport Business Park, Southend Cherry Orchard Way, Watchford. Mike Stranks will present the officers' report. Ready to go, Mike?
Thank you, Chairman. This application site is part of the Airport Business Park. That's sort of this area here. Cherry Orchard Way to the left of your screen, and the roundabout entering the site, Costa, the hub, and then the estate road that you see runs around the middle. It's all complete. This part is under construction, and IPCO's existing building, they're your applicants tonight, is up and running here. We're looking at this area of land here right next door to it. It's a site of about 2.4 hectares of vacant land. And to the north of that, just for your bearings, is the new location of the Westcliff Rugby Club. If we could see the block plan, thank you, Yvonne. Here we see the application in better detail on the site. The proposed building, sort of broadly square in form, a very similar design to the one next door because they're all part of the same family. You'll see the car park links with the existing building because these are the same occupiers, and the concept here is that it centralises IPCO between the two buildings in a consolidated operation. The blue areas that you see here are the circulation roads round to the service yards, which actually connect between the two buildings for lorries and the like, and the car parking areas here, they're probably shared and allow some overspill. There's a realignment here, the spine that goes through, the landscape spine that goes through the estate as a result of revised design between the plots. There's been some variation here, some sort of narrowing, but taking it up to that point. That was previously agreed, the general alignment, but there's a slight change to the shape to bring the service road in. That's also in this application. If we could see the elevations, please, Yvonne, thanks. As you see, members familiar with the existing building, it's clad in sheet profiling, and you'll see the roof design is like this sort of barrelled spans that run across on the end elevation there. Some figures for it, it's about 11,270 square metres in gross floor space. There is an overall length of 116.8 metres, width of 82.6, and the ridge height is 9.6 metres, but the height to walling that you see, it's a fairly shallow roof, is 8.1 metres. The colouring of the building, the walls would be in what they call Alaska mid-grey type colour. The appearance of this building is various shades of grey. So the Alaska is a mid-grey colour with the framing around the windows and the detailing of the building in a dark, what they refer to as anthracite colour, which is a deeper grey. And the roof would be finished in a albatross colour, is the name of it, which is a lighter grey, or some would say a hazy blue. I've mentioned the realignment. There is, if we could jump back to the site plan, please, Yvonne, thank you. You'll see in the report there's mention of a fence which is set back into the site and around the top. Because these applicants deal with air travel, aviation, there's a need for their site to be secure to prevent terrorists, that sort of thing. So what they've done, they've set it back in the public frontage, and the hope that the landscaping that they're proposing will soften that impact. I think we have a detail of that, if we can, please, Yvonne. You'll see that it's the kind of mesh fence where they vary the pattern, it's like a tartan type finish to it. It's a lot more decorative than your palisades and things like that, and it goes well with the landscaping when that establishes. There's one up the centre of Victoria Avenue, I think, in Southend, if you notice it amongst the trees there. The proposed building generally accords with the requirements of the JAP. You can jump to the location plan again, the block plan if you like, Yvonne. That's your joint policy that was prepared between Southend and the Rochford district. That was for the airport environment to bring to this area industrial development that particularly is involved in high skills. We've got a lot of development like MOTs and servicing and other. The intention was to develop the skills base, and because IPCO are now centralised on this, they're bringing to this site the hope of 498 full-time jobs, of which 268 would be new jobs. So they're relocating 230 jobs from the premises they've got scattered about and locating here. but the fulfilment of this scheme would create an extra 260 jobs in their estimation. Members will see from the report that despite the merits of the application, officers are concerned about the strength of the landscaping in this vicinity, and there's a condition 9 in the recommendation that would ask for extra tree planting to beef that up and to give you a tree-lined street or effect of that, which is in accord with the national planning policy guidance that we have at the moment to enhance that. The proposal is of good design and generally accords with the principles and ambitions of the business park, and you'll see that officers are recommending approval. Now, on the addendum, members will have seen that from paragraph 350 on page 720 of the officer report, there is actually an outstanding consultation with the County Council's sustainable drainage team. You can't see it on this plan, but the broad outline of the site includes this landscape strip that's got swales and holding ponds, etc., as well as a broader strategy for holding tanks under car parking areas to hold the surplus rainfall and then discharge it at an acceptable rate. Now, whilst that strategy is part of the outline and a lot of it has already been implemented on the broader site, officers would still prefer to have the comfort of a reply from the county team that the flooding information put in with this application is effectively agreed by the experts, and we had hoped to be in a position to bring that to you. So whilst the expectation of district officers is that the application drainage details will fit within the wider site drainage, we nevertheless require the consideration and the reply of the specialist body. Now, on the basis that as a result of this debate tonight, members have no other concerns to raise, then there's a revised recommendation that officers would like to put before you, that the members delegate the application to the Council's Director of Place to determine, on the basis of the officer recommendation you have set out on page 7.1, but to take account of the reply to consultation when received from the lead local flood authority, the county SUDS team. This will enable a timely decision to be issued on the application, because this is subject to what we call a planning performance agreement, and ensure the swift delivery of economic growth. So that's the revised recommendation, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williams. Speaker. Where is it? Nick Dent. Right, Mr. Nick Dent, the agent, if you'd like to invite you to be allocated seat and address the committee. You have 5 minutes, and we'll let you know when there's a minute left to go.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Nick Diamond. I'm Henry Boots' planning agent. We welcome your officer's positive recommendation, which is the result of extensive pre- and post-application discussions. IPECO are, as you're aware, a world leader in the manufacturing of aviation seating and a long-time employer in the district. They currently occupy units on Aviation Way and, as displayed on the screen there, Plot 7 to the south of the existing proposal on the business park. This proposal responds to their accommodation and security requirements and will allow the consolidation onto one site through the delivery of a purpose-built unit. As has been pointed out, in addition to accommodating the relocation of the existing jobs, the building has also been designed so that it can accommodate far higher numbers of jobs. In addition to a consistent approach to design and landscaping, the proposal will also be of a similar massing to IPECO 1. The proposal incorporates a pedestrian link between the two buildings and provides for 249 car parking spaces, which include 12 blue badge, 10 active charging bays, 12 passive provision, and 70 cycle spaces. HGVs have their own segregated access, and the service yard can be accessed, as has been shown, from both parts of the building, thereby adding to efficiencies. The proposal accords with the aspirations of your Joint Area Action Plan and the NPPF, and will further complement the park's offer, facilitate the consolidation of a long-standing employer of the district, and in so doing deliver economic benefits at a time of economic uncertainty. I would respectfully ask that you follow your officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, we have one ward councillor here tonight, which is Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams, would you like to address the committee now, or would you like to take part in the debate?
No, I have nothing at this moment, thank you.
Thank you. Right then, so remind members that I'd like to give you a chance to speak, and I think Councillor Stanley had his hand up first.
Thank you, Chairman. Two things. Although we're waiting for the SUDS to bring their evidence forward, this is a real major site which is going to have, the drainage on that site was the land itself. So there is going to be quite an excessive amount of water coming from this building and surrounding areas as it's going to be concreted. The one thing that really I want to ask is lighting. The lighting of the area, is that going to be from posts, lamp standards, or is the lighting going to be surrounding of the building and enclosed to the building? In other words, not all areas sort of thing. That's one of my points. The other point is that in the top right-hand corner that we're looking at the moment, is that for any particular amenity? Is that for parking, or what is that for exactly?
Do you mean the service yard?
Sorry?
Do you mean the service yard?
What? Yeah. Yeah. Just thinking of amenity space for the occupants when they have their lunch or something like that. I haven't heard anything in the way of a rest area or anything like that. And the other thing is, with the parking of the vehicles, I noticed that there is only 12 recharging places, but on the basis that we are moving into electric cars, is it considered that there may be more it's not even 10%, so is there maybe more areas for charging of vehicles, as there are 490 places and only 12 places for charging a vehicle? It would seem so that would be a bit ridiculous when you've got quite a number of vehicles that will be electric, and it's not consistent. That I don't think it is anyway.
Okay, I'll put those.
That's it. Thank you.
I'll put those 5 questions to Mike. So we've got lighting of the area. Do you want to go over the flooding again, which was?
No, I think the
addendum explains that.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
SUDS will sort that out, because you can't very well use the ponds that are there already, because they're already
that's to do with the
allocated
SUDS
to
report,
those places, and
Yeah,
I don't
and-
see anywhere where you can put ponds other than in that far corner. So,
Yeah, so we've
that may
got
be
service yard, amenity, and the electric cars
electric
charging points.
I would like to comment on the flooding question, actually, Chairman, but
Yes,
I'll
fine.
leave that one to last. Looking at the lighting, you'll see at condition 6 of the officer recommendation that other than the sort of 1 metre high bollard type, we're saying that if they wish to put it on higher columns or possibly mount on the building, we're requesting details of that. Okay, so we would expect the applicants to bring that back to us. And similarly, for the vehicle charging, you'll see actually the next condition, condition 7, we're asking for details of the electric vehicle charging. I would caveat that it crosses over into building regulations. And obviously, if an applicant finds on a planning permission it's required to do one thing but then do something else on building regs, the government does say we shouldn't meddle with somebody else's legislation. But I understand the sentiment. It's been in planning or been suggested in planning because we're looking for sustainability, and no doubt the applicants will want to provide the opportunity for their staff and visitors to recharge as part of the general plan. But I think we'll wait and see what the applicant is prepared to provide by way of discharging the condition. So that's lighting and the
Electric cars.
electric cars. Now, with the breakout space, there's some provision in the layout internally of the floor space of the building. I get it that what you're saying about outside areas, given the summer we've just had, but there's an arrangement inside the building, a bit like some of the ideas we had for our own new offices. But outside in these landscaping areas, in these areas here, there'd be provision for seating and discrete little places, etc. So there is some opportunity. And then across the road, I don't know if you can zoom out a bit, Yvonne, which will actually help me with the final point in flooding as well. This area here would be public. So there's little doubt there'd be litter bins, and I'm not sure what the orange flashes are, but I'd suggest they're possibly seats or litter bins of some sort. So the public would be able to move through there as a recreational space if they want to go for a 20-minute walk. And that's accessible to all the occupiers, okay? So the concept of the estate would be that they have this green spine through which they can move, and if they want to go and refresh for 20 minutes, recover or something like that, they'd have access to that space. So they don't need to be providing spaces on each individual plot on this development, okay? But there are some within as well. So they've got the best of both worlds, I would say. If I just answer on the flooding, there is no swales on this particular site, but unlike some of the housing schemes we get, when members will be aware that each scheme has to substantiate itself, what you're actually dealing with is one plot on a wider scheme. And I think I said in my presentation that although there are specific engineering to do with this site that we're waiting on a view from floods, if you like, it plugs in to the strategy that's on the whole site, which includes further along here off this, I haven't got a shot of it, but there are swales parked here, and they've done when they got outline consent and all the flood risk assessment to do with that, they've done a massive calculation of what they would need and all the engineering, and a lot of the sort of main provision is in, because you've got units in it, and then there's the necessaries just to do with this scheme that they have to finalise with this planning application. So there is swales further along. It's unfortunate I can't show you them. Okay. Now there would have been a calculation done at outline stage of what they anticipate would be the size of the buildings. So it's already provided for in the network, if you like, and the swales. But if, let's say, they made this building in detail 10% bigger, then the flood risk assessment has got to try and accommodate that extra enlargement. Or it may be made up if a development on another site is perhaps smaller. So they're trying to achieve a degree of fit in flooding for this detailed plot in association with the wider strategy as a whole. Hopefully that gives members the comfort that I think they're looking for.
Thank you.
Just one thing,
follow-up
Chairman.
question.
I wouldn't have thought that the rest area that you're talking about would be exactly a good place when you've got lorries coming in and out and cars coming in and out with fumes and micro particles while you're having your sandwiches and a cup of tea. I would have thought it would have been better, if you don't mind, that it would have been better to move it away from the traffic so that you could sit peacefully there rather than have traffic passing you. Sometimes it's not always a good idea.
Well,
Hey, whatever the case, that's
looking at the plan, Councillor Stanley, where the main seating outside is by the electric points. So hopefully,
just here, and there's another area sorry, I'm trying not to blind Phil. Another area just here that's got outside seating as well.
Yeah.
So they're actually within the site.
Okay. Any new questions, members? Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. If I could just have a bit of clarification on the recommendation 16, the metal gate to allow access to residents the site. Is that the existing metal gates that restrict access to the circle route, the main road around the site, or is that something new? Because that's not really, it's not indicated on the drawings that I could see, and it seems to be a question that I've asked in the past about whether there was planning permission needed for the gates that have actually been put up to stop the boy racers effectively around the site. They're substantial great gates. The plan is to actually use those to shut the site down, the whole site, down during out of hours,
Okay.
from what I understand. Secondly, the S106 agreement monies going this. I'd like a bit of clarification on that. Obviously, I can see the travel information pack, but for a development of this size, that does seem quite light. I wonder if you could just clarify that for us. Please.
Sorry, Chairman, I was being whispered to in here. I didn't get the second point about the monies and
The
Yeah,
106 agreement.
S106 agreement. You've got
the-
item 13 on the recommendation. Includes a travel pack, a travel information pack, but for the size of the development, that seems quite light.
Chairman, I'm confused because there was reference to item 16 and the conditions,
So-
if that's
sorry,
what, there was only 14 and I can't see. If the member could be more specific at what paragraph?
Page 5 of the
At the bottom of the page, there should be an item number, say like 7 and then point 5 is the page.
no. Sorry, this is.
Item 7, you got the right, make sure you got the right item.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just.
I'm thinking we're talking about the withdrawn item because that's a...
No, I did
well,
see
that
a
may
travel
well be
pack
so.
in there, actually.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Very sorry. I do apologise. On the, actually, it is a relevant question regarding S106 monies, though. Could you explain what S106 monies have been allocated for this particular project?
I don't believe there's a Section 106 agreement in this particular application. What members, although it's a standalone full application in its own right, there is a parent outline permission. So the developers are developing the site comprehensively. I think Henry Boot Development's the applicants. But IPECO are developing this particular plot. Now, although it's a standalone, it's not reserved matters pursuant to the outline. So it's not jigsawed in with the outline permission. The commitments on the outline still stand. Now, unfortunately, I can't help members, I'm not familiar with the outline consent, so I couldn't explain to you what monies, but I believe, from what I've heard in the office, you can shut your eyes, but you can't shut your ears to conversations that are being had, that there was a commitment to a bus subsidy. So that was one of the ones that was mentioned. I can't remember the amount, but the idea was that this site and the Bellway site for the housing round the corner would subsidise a bus route.
Yeah.
Now, if that's in the outline permission, given that a lot of the other units are all being done under the outline, that would still come forward. But as this is a standalone item on this unit, there is nothing in the recommendation either been suggested by County Highways or by officers to contribute to anything financially. There's no Section 106 requirement on this particular application.
Can I just interrupt there, Mike? 7.22, there is actually mention of a travel plan, but right at the top, 3.57, which basically says travel plan is defined in the 2021 NPPF, and it seems to be a long-term management strategy for the organisation of site that seeks to deliver sustainable transport objectives.
Sorry, Chair, what with page numbers and paragraph?
7.22,
722 is the page number, yeah?
yeah, and it's 3.57, which I've just read out the main bit there, going to put in.
That, Chairman, isn't any monies. What
No,
that
it's
is,
not monies, it's just giving a,
yeah,
pertaining to the overall strategy.
if I can explain, when you operate a commercial site, in order for the interests of sustainability, a big operator in particular can encourage staff to, say, car share or make cycle provision and things like this. So they have a travel plan as an organisation where when people are recruited, they say, oh, how about car sharing? Where do you live? There's a group that come from Lee, a group that come from Basildon. Here's the lead contact or something like that. And so that's what they mean by a travel plan, that doesn't require a Section 106 agreement. The Section 106s are sort of enforced in the courts where there's a mitigation, perhaps, like you were saying about an essential need to finance the bus route, to get it pumped so that in the first few years it operates and then people start using it as the money that the planning application provides depletes. So it's justifiable to do that, which is, I think has been done in the outline, but it's not part of this. It's unnecessary, which I think is why the officer hasn't included it.
Yeah, does that help, Councillor Reeves?
Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just the gate now, isn't it?
Yeah, the concern I had, I did raise this when we had the update on the JAP site, that there are 2 gates that are put round the site, that I wasn't sure whether they actually needed planning permission, and the people who were doing the presentation were going to come back to us to clarify the situation. I've heard nothing since.
If I may, Chair, I've seen those gates. This application doesn't include them. There is a gate there somewhere in that vicinity to protect their own service yard on their site. But I think you're talking of gates that are further back near Costa. Yeah? And I think the point about joyriders and things, I mean, when I went on one of my site visits on there, one that was closed, and I had to park the other side of it and walk round. Because they're more than 2 metres high, they need planning permission. Okay? And I'm not aware if planning permission has been sought. It's sometimes the case that whilst they've got plant and things on a site, expensive diggers, you know, you pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for them things, that they erect these kind of things just to help their own security. And then when the development is built out and fulfilled, sometimes they're removed. But I can't help you with any knowledge that they're meant to be there permanent or whatever. But if they were to have permanence, I would say they would need planning permission.
Yes, so this is not part of
No,
this
we've
an
had that
application,
outside
so
the meeting.
we've got to take it outside the meeting to find
But
out.
there is a similar gate to protect their own service yard somewhere about there, just as you, so they get the vehicles in off the main access road and then park probably while the gates are unlocked, so they don't, so the back end of the truck isn't causing congestion. So it's setting the site a bit. It's not a visual harm, but the gates that I think we're talking about are up here somewhere and another one about there, I think. I've seen.
Excellent. Okay, any more new questions? Councillor Constable.
Hi, am I right in thinking that the car parking area will be permeable to allow for drainage in a commercial site or not?
Short answer, no, if I explain, Chairman.
Right.
I think they're using macadam for at least the service roads. And I think I saw somewhere, unfortunately I didn't pen this report, so I haven't read every word of the supporting statements, but I think they're using block paving to at least delineate the car park or provide that. Unlike a domestic residence, when you put the surfacing in a domestic front garden to a house, the government has been worried about flash flooding from the runoff from all the parking areas straight into the drains, and somebody downstream gets it. Yeah.
Yep.
So they've introduced permitted development rights. In other words, you don't need planning permission if you do it the way they say, whereby if you introduce a permeable surface or you have some kind of drain that captures the water and takes it away to a flower bed or somewhere, then you don't need planning permission. And then if you say, no, I don't want to do that, I want tarmac, you know, I like tarmac or something, and it doesn't drain, then you need planning permission. And actually then what we do is we put a condition on that it drains. Yeah, so it gets it one way or the other.
Yeah.
When the developers are doing sites like these, they actually need to capture the rainwater through a surface. So porous doesn't always work unless it's underneath it. It's got some kind of membrane or something that channels it through. Because they run it through interceptors. And those interceptors cleanse the water before it discharges into the streams and rivers and things. So if you're going to trap that water and filter it, you really want an impermeable surface to angle away from the carriageway, capture it in some kind of sump somewhere, having been filtered, and then through the flood risk techniques, release it into the drainage network in a managed way. Now on the big sites, instead of having, they have it's like a snail shell, like a vortex. So it comes in like this awkward helter-skelter-like funnel, captures all the water and discharges it through a small orifice that in no way can release any more water than the 1.6 litres a second or whatever the calculation has been. And that's why you have all these swales and things in these areas that hold it back in the system, or you have it in crates and tanks under the car park, so that you're holding it all back. The storm abates, and then probably if it's a really bad one, over the next 24, 48 hours, the rainwater, having been filtered, because it's not pervious, is trickling away into the stream and avoiding flooding. That's,
Won't
in
this
a
be
planner's term,
part of the SUDS report?
sorry?
Won't this be part of the SUDS report, which we wait to come back
It
on?
is, but I'm not a drainage engineer. But that's the concept.
Yep, I understand
So
that.
I would be tempted to worry if I saw a big car park like that porous, because it'll go whoosh straight into the system. Whereas if you've got it captured, you
Yep.
can filter it and clean it, and you can control it.
Thank you.
But on a domestic residence, the government has said we want you to do porous, because they can't get you to put in all that elaborate thing. So they say if you put in a porous on a small surface, incremented up all up the street, you get less flooding. That's their theory.
So the short answer is this will be incorporated in the SUDS report, which we've still got to look, which,
Yes, but I wouldn't expect, it was the point I wanted to make, that it would be porous. There's a reason, hopefully members are now clear in why I wouldn't
Yeah, no,
expect it to be.
that's explained it very clearly. Thank you.
very, very clearly. Councillor Hoy.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of queries and clarification, really. The first one is on car parking sizes. I'm aware that they're 2.5 by 5 minimum size, they have said, whereas it's at, which is to be used in exceptional circumstances. I understand other sites on the larger site have been approved with those minimum sizes. In paragraph 3.56, we've got the wording, the council has consistently accepted the lowered parking bay dimensions of 2.5 by 5 metres. I just want clarification that you're not holding us hostage to the future. That may be on this site, i.e. the larger site, but I don't think as a council we generally do that. I mean, I know that I always argue against it, so I'm sure officers will remember, and I'm sure that we do try to have our preferred size. So I just want some clarification there that wording just relates to this site and the larger site rather than Rochford District as a whole, because I don't want people picking up on this and saying that we've agreed that that's generally accepted.
Okay. Second point.
The second point is on something we don't really come across very often, which is van parking bays. There are no van parking bays on this site. I accept vans may well be using the service yard, but I would expect them to use general parking as well at times, and we've got no van spaces on this site that I see, and potentially on not on the sites within the larger site either. And I want clarification on why van spaces, which I think are 7.5 by 3.5, haven't been used. I know if you look at the parking standards, it doesn't actually mention van parking sizes, but van parking sizes are mentioned in the standard. So I would like to understand why we can't ask for van size parking spaces on a B2 or a B8 site.
Mike?
And why they've not been included.
Thank you, Chairman. The reason they're not included, dealing with the van sizes first, the site is self-managed. Members are right that there's a service ride area, but I think that's primarily for the bigger HGVs, and stuff might be forklifted from part to part on the area at the back. But when you've got an operator, like you've got IP code, they self-manage. We're not dealing with like a council car park or something where loads of different people with their own priorities will all compete. If perhaps they're having a lot of van deliveries, they'll probably put a message out to staff, don't park in this area for the next 6 hours or something like that. So they manage it. It's on private land, of course, so there's not a critical need to make van provision. It's a large site with lots of car parking. The expectation would be that they would manage it themselves. On the justification, unfortunately, it can be district-wide. The officers and the highways advisors at county have to come to a view. Now, on this development generally, on the outline, we've accepted the minimum bay size of 2.5 by 5, which is why we haven't taken issue with it on this one. It's lower than your preferred bay of 5.5 by 2.9 wide. But it could be that on another estate elsewhere that the developers insist again on providing the minimum, which is a national size. The 2.5 by 5 is nationwide. So although we've got a county standard where that's anticipated to be preferred, and there's good reason for that, larger vehicles, opening of doors and things, I actually participated in the fight on this standard on the KFC, which started this problem. The KFC that's over the road up on the Toomey's site. And the inspector awarded costs against us. Although we was pursuing the new standard, we had a recently adopted, been all through examination, county-backed standard. The inspector felt because KFC could demonstrate they build drive-throughs and restaurants all over the country, that he felt that the larger standard was unnecessary. So he not only didn't accept our argument, but he clobbered us with costs as well, saying we couldn't defend our case. Now that's undermined our position in a number of cases where we've tried to fight for the larger schemes. I think on the residential schemes we're more successful because the kind of vehicle ownership can be more varied with families. But on some of the commercial sites, I think we've accepted, and as we have on this development as a whole, I'm talking about the whole park, we've accepted the minimum standard, which, as I say, is a national standard. Essex has gone further, for good reasons, asking for the larger one, but we've not resisted that as officers on this development. And I can't promise that you won't see developments in the future where we will be saying that the minimum is also accepted. We deal with it on merit and on a case-by-case basis, but I'm not going to give you that promise because I don't think we're going to be able to
Thank you, Mike.
Come back very quickly
Follow
on
up,
that.
yeah.
I think that clarifies my point that we don't consistently across the district on all applications accept the lowered parking standard then. On this site we do, but
The officer was...
Barrett David Wilson
officers
home
will-
site, they are the preferred standard, for instance. That's a residential one. I'm just really worried about wording. I've been caught out with wording in the past on applications causing problems, and I don't want it to be used in future applications.
Yeah,
that it's
I'm
district-wide
sure officers always
sites.
ask for the larger parking standard, but
Yeah.
doesn't help being undermined by the inspector.
In a simple way, Chair, we shoot high. When we meet these people in pre-application, etc., we point out that there's the better preferred standard, and we hope to persuade them to put that standard in. But if they choose not to, we have to think, do we recommend to you to refuse it, that the car parking spaces are inadequate, when the standard itself says there's two choices? Yeah? And then when you think that it's a national standard, as I've explained, which is like the fallback, then it sometimes undermines our position. So you will see some sites probably come through where the developer is quite happy to provide the preferred standard. In this case, the applicant has felt that the minimum standard is good enough, and we've not really been able to mount a case to say to you, you shouldn't accept it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, just very quickly, thank
Yeah,
you.
go on.
I'm sorry to bang on about it. I'm very happy with that. That's the answer I want. But can we in future make sure we don't say we consistently accept lowered parking standards? Because we don't consistently. It's wrong. The word is wrong. On this site we have, but not generally.
Okay. Noted, okay. Any more questions? Looks like we've questioned ourselves out. Okay. Right then, so we have a recommendation to approve the application subject to conditions 1 through to 14 set out on page 7.1 and 7.6. And also, do you want to say something? Yeah, I was about to come to that. Yeah, I hadn't forgotten.
Okay.
I've written it on there. And also to have the recommendation that the members delegate the application to the Council's Director of Place to determine on the basis of the officer recommendation and taking into account the reply to consultation when received from the lead local flood authority. So, members, can we have a show of hands? Councillor Stanley.
Just one point, Chairman. Will we be notified on the SUDS outcome of this development?
I do hope so.
I'd say we can try, but I'll make a note of it. The problem is it's not normally a procedural thing. Sometimes you could end up emailing me, did you ever get a reply? Oh, yes, we did. I'll do my best to let you be aware of it. The best way is to go on to the website.
Other ways, let's see if it's been built. Phil?
Thank you, Chair. I would quite like to know when this decision's being issued, given it's being issued in my name. So I'm happy to take that action on, Councillor Stanley, just to find out when we've issued the decision and let the Development Committee know that that's happened.
Thank you.
It's only for the fact that we have got a very large development,
Yes.
and obviously we would like to know what goes on with the SUDs, with their actions and what they've come up with, and we can use that in the Development Committee for next development, whichever happens on that site. That's
Okay.
all I'm asking.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, members, can we have a show of hands to support this application, please? That looks like it's unanimous. Thank you very much. And I think that's it. I think the meeting closes at 8:14. Thank you very much. I wish everybody a happy Christmas and a very merry New Year.